Hi, these are the top 10 films of 1947. When I say top, I mean my personal favourite films. Cheers. In at number 10, Dark Passage. This third collaboration between Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall is by far the strangest. This noir doesn't always work, but it's so odd it makes it incredibly watchable. The first half uses a subjective camera, so we see through Bogart's escaped convict's eyes. It feels like you're playing a first-person immersive Bogart video game.
Oh, Lauren, I'm so sorry. I'm a little indecent.
Did you get rid of your clothes?
I can't find them anywhere. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that this is out and that you have to see this.
It's decent enough. May I have the clipping?
After all this first-person stuff, Bogart has plastic surgery, and after a terrific scene where he's drugged,
It'll be all right.
Make you look like a bulldog or a monkey.
he spends the next quarter of the film being fully bandaged and unable to speak. Bizarre. In the final quarter, we finally get to see Bogart, and the film hurries to a conclusion. By no means one of his best, but utterly fascinating. In at number 9, Nightmare Alley. The strange noirs keep coming. This first adaptation of the 1946 novel of the same name is dark, twisted, and quite odd. Very much a film of two halves. In the first half, we follow a con man after he takes a job at a travelling carnival, and in the second, we follow his glamorous mind-reading scam in Chicago. Being a noir, of course, it's not going to end well, but in this version, bizarrely, it kinda does. There's a lot to like about both this version and the 2021 Del Toro movie. The more recent one keeps the novel's bleak ending, which makes far more sense, but this original adaptation has some great performances and a unique feeling of its own. In at number 8, The Lady from Shanghai. Another film that was taken away from Orson Welles and messed around with. Who knows what his original vision for this noir would have been, but we can be certain that his Irish accent would have still been awful. What we end up with is a beautiful looking film. The cinematography is outstanding, and the location photography that Welles insisted on gives it a sense of scale usually not seen in a noir. It's another very odd film. That's 3 for 3, with a nightmarish quality to many of the scenes, most notable in the marvellous House of Mirrors climax.
I knew I'd find you two together. If I hadn't, Elsa, I might have gone on playing it your way. You didn't know that, but you did plan for me to follow you.
You've been drinking.
In at number 7, Brighton Rock. The fourth odd noir on this list, this one coming from the British Isles. Based on Graham Greene's novel, this gangster film takes place in the pleasant seaside resort of Brighton. It's a very violent and very original picture. Richard Attenborough plays Pinky Brown, a teenage gangster with a murderous streak. He gets most of the attention when people talk about that film these days, but there are two other performances that really stand out to me. There's Carol Marsh as an innocent Catholic waitress who gets mixed up with Pinky. She's brilliant at playing a nice young girl who has morals, but whose infatuation with the murderer clouds her judgment. The other performance I love is Hermione Baddeley's. Instead of a hard-boiled detective looking for the murderer, we have a drunk entertainer who thinks she has psychic abilities. She's funny and brilliantly chaotic. In at number 6, Monsieur Verdot. In a lot of Charlie Chaplin films, he looks like a man who really wanted to be loved. His most famous character, the Tramp, was a lovable underdog. But now, just post-World War II, when cinema goers were looking for comfort, he makes a comedy about a serial killer. Good on him. He's dealt with the Great Depression, the rise of Hitler, so he's never picked an easy subject. Chaplin plays the bigamist killer based on a real French murderer. It's a funny movie, but also a very dark one, dealing with death and the meaning of life, and not coming up with very many positive answers. After the worldwide conflict where so many leaders around the world made choices that caused the deaths of millions, here he is pondering whether one man's crimes pale in comparison. People coming to see the Tramp slip on some soap must have been particularly shocked.
I've got one! I've got one! Oh, I got... Oh, this is a whopper! Hey, I've got... attention, I've got one. Hey, don't lie there asleep. Give me a hand.
In at number 5, Out of the Past. It may be by the numbers noir, but that doesn't stop making this a classic. It's got everything you could ask for. A private eye hiding from his past, a femme fatale, stunning black and white cinematography, and a whole load of twists and turns. There's just something special about Robert Mitchum. He's incredibly masculine, mysterious and dangerous, but always with a glint in his eye. He's riveting in the lead, and Kirk Douglas does what I think he and his son Michael do best, play bastards. He and Mitchum work perfectly well, and you feel the masculine tension between them. And rounding it off is Jane Greer, who's absolutely hypnotic as the femme fatale. So often noirs of the period feel cheap and kind of thrown together, but this puts all the standard ingredients together to make downbeat perfection. In at number 4, Black Narcissus. The marvellous Powell and Pressburger managed to make a thrilling film about a bunch of nuns. These nuns try and set up a hospital and school in an abandoned palace in the Himalayas. It's not easy going, and each of the nuns find it difficult in their own ways. Deborah Kerr plays the Sister Superior trying to keep them together. She nearly manages to, but Kathleen Byron plays a nun who goes absolutely bonkers in the remote mountains. She's tremendous in the picture. It looks astonishing, and even more astonishing is the fact that it was all filmed in the UK, at Pinewood and in Sussex. The matte paintings and the sets really make you feel like you're up there in the Himalayas. And the paintings also give it a kind of dreamlike quality. Powell and Pressburger knew how to make a beautiful film, and a film that deals with very interesting subjects, such as Britain's dwindling empire. In at number 3,
Quai d'Afara.
one of the great French films of the 1940s. It's a crime procedural drama, which are usually quite serious movies, somber films dealing with every detail into an investigation. But this film, directed by Henri-Georges Clouzot, is whimsical, quirky, and full of life and humour. Set around the entertainment world in post-World War II Paris, we follow a group of people who are somehow involved in the murder of a Harvey Weinstein-esque powerful handsy producer. Suzy Delaire and Bernard Billier play a couple at the centre of the crime. Delaire is hilarious as a diva singer, desperate for fame and attention, and Billier is equally funny as her depressed, jealous husband. There is dark humour throughout, but also many tender moments. It's full of great characters and charming little details. It's a unique crime film that managed to be both intriguing and humorous. In at number 2, It Always Rains on Sunday. When it comes to this movie, I'm incredibly biased, as it stars my grandparents. But even without my link to it, I still think this is a fantastic British movie. In many ways, it's a precursor to the kitchen sink dramas that were about to come, but it's also a film that many have compared to the French poetic realist films of the 1930s. Set on one rainy Sunday in East London, this is post-World War Britain. This is a world of deprivation, rations and air raid shelters still hanging about in the garden. We follow many different people in the area over the day. Lovers, thieves and policemen. But at the centre of the film are a couple played by my grandparents. Googie Withers plays a depressed housewife struggling with the day-to-day reality of her life, when all of a sudden everything is turned upside down and her former lover, played by John McCallum, breaks out of prison and she finds him hiding in the shelter in her garden. They are tremendous together in the film. The chemistry is there, and while they in real life ended up being married for 62 years, here we can tell that their characters are doomed. It's a depressing film about trapped people, about people with no hope, about a city and a country no longer feeling that it's in control. A wonderful look at post-war Britain. And in at number 1, Odd Man Out. Before Carol Reed made The Third Man, he made this masterpiece noir. James Mason plays an Irish nationalist fugitive hiding out in Belfast. After a botched robbery, he's shot and abandoned by his fellow robbers. The rest of the film takes place over the day and night in Belfast, with everyone looking for him, including his associates and the British Army. The film captures Belfast at the time wonderfully, a place with those who see him as a hero and those who see him as a villain. a film where each person you come across, you have no idea their allegiance, which leads to tension that runs throughout the picture. As the night goes on and Mason loses more and more blood, he gives off more of an appearance of being drunk, which leads to him moving around the city in strange circles of people. This is a film that has a totally unique character, using the tension in Belfast to tell a riveting story about a man trying to escape. It's a film with many themes at its core, about divisions in the country and about people fighting for what they believe in. Mason is very good in it, although he doesn't actually have that many lines. The film becomes more surreal and chaotic as it goes on, which is often how nights turn out as it reaches the early hours of the morning. I love The Third Man, and I think this is equally good. Carol Reed sure knew how to make a unique noir. Right, so counting down my top 10. In at number 10, Dark Passage. In at number 9, Nightmare Alley. In at number 8, The Lady from Shanghai. In at number 7, Brighton Rock. In at number 6, Monsieur Verdot. In at number 5, Out of the Past. In at number 4, Black Narcissus. In at number 3,
Che de Afara.
in at number 2, It Always Rains on Sunday. And in at number 1, Odd Man Out. Well, those are my top 10 films of 1947, and there's probably loads I've missed out. So what are your top 10 films of 1947? Cheers.